Okay, so this is the last part of the managing broker exam for chapter 2. Reporting using the average hourly wage calculation method. You could leave that on. No? Okay. We were listening to Ghost Channel. The average hourly wage calculation method is an alternative to reporting actual hours worked that is allowed for firms that report apartment house managers, caretakers, or similar employment where compensation is not tied directly to hours worked. The compensation is linked to the housing and other factors that determine the real compensation costs. Benefits. Employees are eligible for industrial insurance benefits when a work-related injury or occupational illness occurs. Benefits are also paid if an employee is injured during a meal period at a job site, even though the person was not working at the time. If an employee's claim is accepted, L&I pays for all approved healthcare providers and the hospital, surgical, pharmacy, or other healthcare services necessary for the treatment of the workplace injury or occupational disease. Like you guys have probably all seen those commercials for mesothelioma. Usually, there is no out-of-pocket expense to a firm or the employee. Injured employees may select a healthcare provider who is qualified to treat their injury or occupational disease. Time loss compensation payments, wage replacement benefits. Employees receive a percentage of their regular wages known as a time loss compensation payment if they are unable to work because of an industrial injury or illness. L&I or a self-insured employer only pays for prescription medications necessary for treatment of accepted conditions resulting from industrial injuries and occupational diseases on open and allowed WC claims. Travel and property reimbursement. Travel costs of more than 10 miles one way from an injured employee's home may be reimbursed under some circumstances when pre-approved by the claim manager for treatment for an accepted condition, an independent medical exam requested by the claim manager, approved vocational activities. Personal property loss. Personal property loss or damage during an industrial accident may be reimbursed in some cases. Coverage is limited to prescription eyeglasses, clothing, shoes, boots, personal protective equipment. Pensions or payments for the disabled. An injured worker who has completed treatment but suffered a permanent disability may qualify for a permanent partial disability award. Some awards are set by state laws, but others must be rated by a qualified doctor. If an employee loses the use of both legs, both arms, an arm, and a leg or vision, they are eligible for a monthly pension by law. This is true even if they can return to work. If, after medical and vocational evaluations, L&I finds that an injury prevents an injured employee from ever becoming gainfully employed, they may receive a pension. If an injured employee is unable to work due to an industrial injury, they may work with a VRC to develop a training plan to train for a new job. The VRC will discuss the vocational process and the options available. Once the training is approved by L&I, there are two options. Option 1, to participate in the plan approved by L&I. Option 2 gives the injured person the ability to develop a plan of their own. A worker must use licensed, accredited, and otherwise approved training programs. Survivor benefits. The surviving spouse and legally dependent children receive a monthly pension if a work-related injury or occupational illness results in an employee's death. The amount they receive is based on the formula for setting time loss compensation payments. In addition, for deaths that result from injuries, survivors receive an immediate cash payment of 100% of the state's average wage. The wage rate changes each July 1st. Reporting. Each employer must send a quarterly report to L&I. This can be done online or manually. Below is a chart that indicates the dates that make up the quarter and the dates that the report and payment are due to L&I. Quarter 1, January 1st through March 31st. Quarter 2, April 1st through June 30th. Quarter 3, July 1st through September 30th. Quarter 4, October 1st through December 31st. Due dates fall on a weekend. The report must be postmarked the following business day. Employers have the option of filing their industrial insurance quarterly reports online and paying premiums with electronic funds transfer or paper checks. Online forms automatically calculate premiums, eliminating the manual calculations of paper reports. Reporting by mail. Near the end of each quarter, L&I will mail the quarterly reports, which are used to report hours or other units for industrial insurance. The report form includes instructions. Employers who report on the hour basis will be asked to list the actual payroll and total number of hours worked in covered employment for the preceding quarter, broken down by industrial insurance risk classification. The composite rate for each risk classification is assigned to each business and pre-printed on the form. The rate is expressed in terms of dollars per hour, per worker, per unit. That's a lot, and you need to know this stuff. Quarterly reports must be filed online or postmarked on and before the due date. Payment must be made by the due date, otherwise the report becomes delinquent and L&I imposes penalties. If a firm does not receive its quarterly report before the close of the quarter, it should contact its policy manager or local L&I office. If there are no worker hours units to report, no premium is due. However, whether one files online or by mail, there still must be a quarterly report marked 0 hours or no payroll submitted. Generally, companies would report the actual number of hours units worked by their employees. Sick leave hours, vacations, or holidays, even if a paid leave, are not reported. Overtime work is reported on a one-to-one basis. Each hour of overtime work is reported as 1 hour, even though time and a half wages may have been paid. It is difficult to keep an accurate record of actual hours worked for certain types of employees. For this reason, other methods for determining the number of hours to report have been calculated. If any of your employees fit into one of the following categories, use the method described to report their hours. Commissioned personnel. When a firm pays its workers a percentage of the amount charged for the product or service, the employee becomes a commissioned worker. For commissioned employees who work primarily at the firm's premises, an employer would have to report actual hours. For commissioned employees who work primarily away from company premises, the firm would have to report either assumed hours or actual hours worked. In real estate brokerages, this rule would apply. If a daily record of actual hours is kept for each worker, the firm must report all of its commissioned workers using the same method, either assumed or actual hours. For example, real estate brokers use the 0.1587 rate, which means $15.87 per hour worked per unit as the composite rate. To determine the premium due, multiply the workers' hours units, not the payroll dollar amount, by the composite rate for each classification. The broker is a full-time employee or works 160 hours in a month. So that's 2.5248 per month. Each company must keep records of each employee's start and end employment date. If a firm reports hours, it reports 8 hours for each day and 160 per month. If it uses the 160-hour rule, it is able to report 8 hours per day for new or terminated workers who worked a partial month at the beginning or the end of their employment. Man, this is really dry, you guys, and you need this for this test. Okay, let's go back and finish this next one. Salaried personnel. Companies may report salaried workers using the 160 hours. Optional elective coverage. When optional elective coverage for an owner, sole proprietor, partner, LLC, manager, or corporate office is purchased, reports may use either the 160 assumed hours per month or actual hours. If a quarterly report is not submitted, L&I will estimate the premiums due based on the best information. In addition, penalties will be assessed on delinquent accounts. The longer the account is delinquent, the greater the penalty. The minimum penalty is $10. Remember, a report must be submitted even for no hours or units. Okay. Record keeping. State law requires every employee to keep records that will allow L&I to compute premiums. These records must be open for L&I examination Accurate, properly maintained records will help you manage your business and, in the case of an audit, minimize the time needed for accurate record keeping. Records must be kept of actual hours worked for workers and for piecework or hourly. If an employee is assigned to more than one risk classification, recorded records of actual hours worked each day must show how many hours they worked in each class, gross pay, deductions from earnings, and the purpose of each deduction, and net pay. In addition to payroll and time records, the following tax records also need to be maintained for 3 years: unemployment tax returns, state excise tax returns, IRS forms, and tax returns, such as W-2s and 1099s, 941s, and 1065s. Other records that may need to be referenced: check registers, canceled checks, cash disbursement journal, materials and supplies, miscellaneous contract labor. Accident reports. A firm should keep complete records of all accidents, including minor ones. Injured workers report of the accident, supervisor's report, industrial insurance claim log, and the claim date. Audits. L&I can audit any firm's employment record. An L&I auditor will inspect business operations and examine records to verify that the worker's payroll and hours have been reported accurately. Don't mess this up. An L&I auditor also will ensure that worker hours and claims associated with the business accounts are in the appropriate risk classification. Okay. Certificate of coverage. Companies must obtain a certificate of insurance coverage and post it conspicuously in their place of business. If a firm has more than one business location, separate certificates must be posted in each facility. The certificate is issued when opening an account with L&I. To obtain replacements, please call your office. Required posters. L&I will send you 3 posters that inform your employees of their rights and responsibilities as workers. These must be displayed where employees can see them. The required posters are: notice to employees of industrial insurance, job safety and health law, your rights as a worker. Obtaining copies of these posters may be done by calling any local L&I office or ordering online. That's probably the driest thing that we have to cover in this entire study section. And I would suggest that you review it and know it. It was on the test when I took it. So you have to know like L&I reporting standards and things like that, because you have to run this business appropriately. That's it. See ya. See you in the next chapter.